It just didn't make sense. Danny Rolen Jr.'s family didn't buy the claim that he committed suicide.
When investigators first thought it was a suicide, did you believe that?
No. Not my son. There was no way.
Danny wouldn't have taken his own life.
No.
You know better than that.
I know that without a doubt because he loves his family.
Family like daughter Kelly.
I was 12, and when they told me, I couldn't believe it. Like, I thought, how? How would he, how?
Danny's younger sister, Tammy, says she didn't believe the suicide claim for 1 second.
Investigators first thought your brother took his own life.
How? How can someone that beats themselves in the head with a hammer umpteen times stab themselves in the back?
And investigators quickly realized the suicide story is just that, a story.
This was clearly a staged scene.
This was clearly made to look like Danny Rolen committed suicide.
It was clearly an attempt, but it did not fool investigators, nor the medical examiner, nor the DA's office.
You saw through it.
Yes, ma'am.
The autopsy states Danny died as the result of multiple sharp force injuries and blunt force head injuries. The medical examiner says the manner of death is homicide. So who staged the scene? Investigators now hone in on the teenager who claims he discovered Danny's bloody body.
Can you go ahead and state your full name, please? Preston Allen Quinn.
Quayne goes by Tyler. He's in the back seat of a Grayson County, Texas sheriff's car. A detective records an audio interview with him to see what he claims led up to Danny's death.
Last night, I was watching the kids for a little bit, and they went and got some cocaine. And
Who's they?
Yeah, her and Danny. They
And
got a lot.
name her by name?
Amber Ratliff.
Amber Ratliff was Danny's girlfriend. Quayne claims she and Danny had a horrible argument that night.
All I hear was, "Get the out. I don't want you here no more."
And who was saying that?
Amber was saying
Amber's
that.
saying that,
to
okay,
Danny.
to Danny.
And I went in there and I was like, "Y'all calm down." And Danny yelled out, "You want me out of here? You're gonna regret this."
So now, Anna, Texas Police Sergeant Chad Butler, who was with the sheriff's office at the time, takes the boy into headquarters.
All right. You doing okay today?
Where a detective conducts a formal interrogation.
What time did you think you woke up?
I didn't. Right when I lay down, I felt it.
Right when you lay down at 5 o'clock, you felt what?
I lay down and I see his arm, and I thought he was just passed out, because he was drunk.
How many beers do you think you had?
I had one and neighbor had one, so that's 10.
You think he had 10 beers?
No, I know he had 10 beers.
But as detectives will soon learn, that was a lie. When the toxicology results come back, it will show Danny had no alcohol in his system at the time of his death. So if Danny wasn't drinking, someone had to have placed the beer bottle into his hand.
So at 5 o'clock, you lay down and you feel wetness on your right arm, on your top of your left hand, on your right jaw, and you smell this odor.
Yeah, and I was getting soaked, and I went like this, and it just felt gooey. And I got up, and I saw his arm. He was finally out like this. He was like this, and his right arm, and I saw a cut right here.
Was he laying on his back or on his side?
So,
Could that be another lie? When investigators first entered the house, they saw Danny lying on his back.
You never put your shoes on. You had your shoes off early that evening, and you never put them on that night.
no.
You never had your shoes on.
They had my socks, I had blood on my socks.
You never walked into the kitchen with blood on your shoes.
Nope.
Another lie. Photos taken that morning show Quayne's shoes covered in blood. The CSI team marked off places on the kitchen floor where they found blood tracks.
I probably talked to him for 3 or 4 hours. Every time he told the story, there was another little piece that was laid out there on the table. Every time somebody talked to him, the story kept changing. It was never consistently the same. Maybe the overall idea of it, but there was always a little detail that was either pulled or added to.
So from the start, you knew he had to be lying if the story changed over and over and over again.
We definitely started to suspect that based on what he was saying to us.
Quayne Quain doesn't know it yet, but detectives have found his prints all over the alleged suicide note.
You had a lot of red flags.
A lot. There was a lot of, we need to slow down, take this step by step, and know exactly what we're doing.
One of those steps was to take a closer look at the slashes on Danny Jr.'s wrists. Turns out they are superficial wounds.
So the superficial wounds to the wrist were made to look like he cut himself?
That's correct. The medical examiner was also able to determine that those lacerations were not sufficient enough to slice any arteries or veins, therefore to cause any substantial bleeding. There was not a lot of bleeding from those wounds, so they were indications that those wounds had been caused post-mortem or after death.
It's all starting to add up. The phony cuts on the wrist, the beer bottle planted in the hand, the suicide note. Only 2 people could have staged the crime, and detectives narrow it down to 1.
Did you have any problem with believing that Quain did this solely and that Amber was in no way involved?
In the beginning of the investigation, we suspected that maybe Amber was involved, but the investigation shows that's not the case. No evidence that would show she's part of the crime.
When officers arrived, they observed no blood on Amber, so that was a first indication that perhaps Amber was not involved in the murder.
Quain is arrested and charged with murder. Investigators get a stunning piece of evidence that will complete the puzzle.
Perhaps most importantly was a jailhouse recorded phone call to his grandmother where Quain essentially admitted to the murder himself.
Crime Watch Daily has obtained that recorded call.
I mean, I'm guilty for killing him, but I'm innocent in self-defense.
But he was trying to get on you?
Yeah. I didn't mean to hit him that many times. Like, he looked like a cartoon when I was hitting him.
So you feel that speaking honestly with his grandmother, he confessed to the killing?
I have no doubt about it.
Next, the indictment and the trial.
We felt like this case warranted certification as an adult, to stand trial as an adult.
Plus, a Crime Watch Daily exclusive. Tyler Quain speaks in his first television interview. It's an interview you have to see to believe.
That's one of the hardest things I did. Because I didn't believe he was gone until then.